wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
You're listening to A Quirky Journey, the healthy family podcast with your hosts Jo Whitten and Leah Follett. Welcome to A Quirky Journey. Join us as we share our family's journeys to good health. You'll find plenty of inspiration, tips and recipe ideas, as well as stories from everyday people who've struggled and overcome health problems and diet challenges in their own families. I'm Jo Whitten, author of the blog and book Quirky Cooking, and today I'm chatting with my co-host Fouad Kassab about how to have a healthy Christmas. Hi Fouad.
Hi Jo, how are you doing?
I'm good.
I'm trying to match your energy. Every time you do this kind of intro, I go, how can she do it? How does she have so much energy for such a positive intro? And now I'm infected by your energy. So
Good.
Yeah.
After a long day at work.
Oh my. Long day.
I've just been eating pecan pie, so I got lots of energy.
Yeah, you're bouncing off walls with those dried dates that you told me about.
Don't give away my recipe. I'll post it later.
Is that going in the GAPS book, Jo?
I think I should post it on my Facebook page because it's kind of Christmassy. Well, we always have pecan pie at Christmas. That's a bit of an American thing. I know it's not traditional Australian, but it's so yummy.
I mean, what is traditional Australian Christmas?
Oh, who knows? It's pretty much everything and anything, isn't it?
Yeah, all our, the people who've come here, they bring their own traditions and... Yeah. So I will tell you that pecan pie is as Australian as a roast.
Good. Thank you.
All right. You have my permission to go ahead and say it's a Christmas food.
Yay! It is in our family anyway.
Cool. It looks good, so I might give that a try.
Yeah. Well, for those of you listening, it's a GAPS-friendly, paleo-friendly pecan pie. My mum has always made it for Christmas, and over the years, my taste buds have changed, and every time she makes it now, if I have a taste, I'm just like, I can't eat it, it's so sweet.
Too sweet?
Yeah. I get through half a piece and just like, no, sorry, Mum. Sorry, Mum, if you're listening, I love you. But yeah, I had to make my own version, so.
So will she still make her own for Christmas?
She quite often does, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it depends. We kind of share the cooking. So.
Hey, did I cut the intro in half? I was supposed to just say, "Hey Joe," and you'd be like, "Hey Fouad, now let me go on with the intro," or
doesn't matter.
No, all right, cool.
Okay, so where were we? Okay, so what we're talking about is, hey, these podcasts are very chatty. It's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or quirky. It's
quirky. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't really stick to the rules. But anyway, so we're talking about healthy Christmas as in not just the food. Obviously, the food is a very important part of Christmas, or at least it is to me, more important than presents to me. But I think there's so much more to a healthy Christmas than just the food. It's also keeping the stress levels and the overwhelm down and not getting caught up in all the hype and all the spend heaps of money just because it's Christmas, and, just making sure that you enjoy this special time with your family and friends and not letting busyness kind of take over so that you can't enjoy it. I don't know about you, Fouad, because you sort of thrive on cooking for large amounts of people. That's what you do.
Well, I mean, I used to.
Yeah.
But
do you enjoy
I guess we'll
it?
get into it. I do love it.
Yeah,
but I think the theme has changed for me, and we'll get into those kinds of tips. But one of the biggest things for me, Jo, personally, is trying to cook less variety, but just actually be a bit more present in the dishes that I am cooking, and just really, really enjoying the ones that I'm doing and putting, if I have a certain budget, I'd rather put it on 4 dishes rather than 8.
Oh, me too. Exactly. And sometimes I look at it and like I tell people what we had, and I think, oh, that sounds really boring. But you can only eat so much at one sitting.
Yeah.
So why not just have, 3 or 4 things that you really love.
Yeah.
Plus 1 dessert, maybe, and that's pretty much
2 desserts.
Okay, 2.
Yeah,
that's true. We usually do have a couple.
Pie.
That's right. It is hard to choose the desserts, I must admit.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to have the desserts leading up to Christmas, and then you have New Year's to extend it. But what I was going to say, for a lot of us, the whole thought of cooking for a big bunch of family that all come to visit at Christmas time can be very stressful. And I've heard that from a lot of my friends that they find it quite overwhelming, when all the family, like the in-laws come and everything, and they've got to, and especially if there's special diets involved, you're worrying about what people will think about the food that you're making because you have to cook to suit your family. You're worried about making food that they'll all like despite the fact that it's healthy, that kind of thing. So I know when I was young and I'd have people over for dinner, I'd stress so much I'd get a really sick tummy just because people were coming for dinner. I found it I found it very stressful. And I'd be running around the house freaking out because it was a mess and everybody help clean up, and losing my temper. And I think a lot of women are like that. My husband would be going, cool it. It doesn't matter if the house is a mess. I'm like, yes, it does.
Yes, that's really, I think like in our household, we still get a bit of chaos around it, but we have the excuse of having two really young girls who, like, despite all your best efforts in cleaning up, the house is going to get messed up 5 minutes before the visitors arrive. So,
that's right. And I think I've gotten past that stage, but I know a lot of people haven't or in that early stage, and that it stresses them out, the whole thought of having family. So we just want to give you some ideas of ways that you can keep it less stressful and really enjoy it and just have really delicious food. So,
Kick it off, Jo.
Okay, so let's start with food, since that's most important. No, it's not. Okay, but we will start with food. Okay, so some ideas for Christmas food that are suitable for GAPS and Paleo diets. This is one question that I've been asked a lot recently on Facebook. So for me, obviously, I think straight away of the simplest food that we can pretty much all eat, which is roast and veggies. And that's, for us, has always been our traditional Christmas dinner anyway, a roast turkey, the roast veggies, all of that kind of thing. And I've just found ways to make them, suitable for GAPS for us at the moment. And no one's really noticed the difference because, it's just traditional basic food.
So let me just understand this from where you are, because your household is a bit more restrictive than mine. So like a paleo diet, usually like there's no issue in creating a Christmas feast. But and also when whoever comes over and eats, they probably will not notice that you give them paleo foods. But GAPS being more restrictive.
Yes, and it depends on what stage you're at.
And depends on what stage you're at. So like let's talk about, like, do you think people who are on the phase 1 GAPS should actually be hosting Christmas at all?
Well, maybe not hosting it. But having said that, last year when we were on stage very early GAPS, we were already having herbs and stuff, so we were probably, and spices, so we were probably to stage 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty early days, and so I said to my mum, can we have Christmas at our place so that I can cook the food I know we can have? And they were fine with that. So we did have duck, and we did roast it. But what I did for those who were really early GAPS, still on stage 1, I did a blog post showing some things that you could have, like a pot roast chicken where it's cooked in the broth, and if you can, have some lemon zest and fresh herbs on the skin of the chicken, sort of sitting out of the water a bit. So that kind of what's the word? It doesn't get that roast skin, but it's nice and,
Are you not allowed to roast the chicken?
Not at first. No, not until stage 4.
What, is it because you're encouraged to drink the broth? Or?
Well, because everything's got to be cooked in the broth to make it really soft and really easy to digest. You can't have roast or grilled meat until stage 4. Right. So if you're on those first few stages, you pretty much... It is actually really delicious to cook the roast in broth and just simmer it until it's really soft. And then what I would do is take it out of the broth, put it on a platter so that you can slice it like a normal roast. If you can have the herbs and that really helps it to look prettier. And then I would cook the vegetables in that broth that the meat cooked in while you keep the meat warm, and then scoop them out and serve them separately, so you're not having like a stew or something, and then make a gravy by simmering down some of that broth with some gelatin and salt and pepper and herbs if you can, or spices, and then just simmering it down and reducing it for your gravy. And that is actually a really tasty meal. It just doesn't look as amazing as a traditional roast
And
dinner.
and would you do that for those on GAPS? What would you do about your visitors who aren't on GAPS? Would you
Well,
that would be a meal?
I think most people are happy to help bring stuff.
Okay.
And that's what, with our family, it was kind of like everybody bring something that we all talked about what we would bring so that there would be the right kind of foods for everybody.
Okay, so basically you had a really good organized Christmas where everyone knew what they were getting.
Yeah, everyone was bringing something that they would like to have, but no one really brought anything that was like I actually did all the desserts because that way my kids could have everything and it wasn't a stress. But I know a lot of families won't probably do that because they'll want their traditional sweets or their lollies or whatever, and that's just something you'll have to work out with each family. I think this is why a lot of people don't start GAPS until January.
Yes, okay.
Because it's a lot harder if you're doing it at Christmas time. Once you've been doing GAPS for a full year and you come back to Christmas, there's so much more that you can eat. Okay, you're not having lollies, but you're having homemade sweets. And and it's not so stressful. And my kids are amazing now. Like they'll just...
Well, you shouldn't be having lollies anyway.
No, you shouldn't. But my kids will see other kids eating stuff and won't... I mean, my kids are older, obviously, but they're so used to eating this way now that it doesn't faze them. For instance, yesterday they were with a bunch of teenagers having dinner at a friend's house, and it was a very spur-of-the-moment thing. So I had something they could take for the main meal, but I didn't have anything for them for dessert. And all the other teenagers were sitting around eating pie and ice cream for dessert. And my kids were sitting there eating nuts and seeds. And my 16-year-old son turned to his cousin and said, "Do you want some nuts?" And he just looked at him and went, "No,
Are you crazy?
I have pie." They were just like paying them out big time.
Yeah.
My kids just laughed it off because they thought it was pretty funny. But that's why I made pecan pie tonight, because I said to my son, "You were so good about that, I've got to make you a pie."
Such a good mom, Jo.
Besides the fact that I like pecan pie.
You should have instead been working on the GAPS program. Which,
I know, shush.
Okay.
But, you got to
I'll
do
let it
nice
slip
things
this
for your
time.
kids. So that's pretty much how we worked Christmas on the early stage of GAPS.
So here's like one of the big ones for me is actually communicating to the families that are coming together what you will be having, and maybe get them to tell you what they're bringing, so that everyone's across and have a little bit of an organized Christmas, so that everyone knows. So don't just say like bring whatever you want. Just know what's happening, and avoid crossovers, and see if there's any way that you can tell them what you need to eat as well, and they might be more than happy to accommodate. I know I would as well.
Yeah,
so,
and most people will. And I do, I know there was a couple of comments on the Facebook group of in-laws that, or family members that weren't understanding all of diets and would purposely bring things that they were asked not to bring. And I just think, maybe don't invite them. That's difficult.
Yeah.
That's really difficult. But I think it's something that you have to decide, how bad is the like for us with GAPS, you have to stay strict because you don't want to have to start over. So the kids know that, and they're sticking to it. But if it's just it's not an allergy, it's not a major intolerance or GAPS or something, it's just that you're living a healthier diet than your family, you might let them have a little bit of pavlova or something at Christmas and not stress out, It really depends on the issue, why you're eating the way you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's the risk reward. But like I want to go back to that idea of people coming over with the foods.
Yeah.
So just be mindful that probably people will come with foods that you told them that they shouldn't bring.
Yeah.
And just don't be upset at them.
No, don't.
Yeah.
Don't get offended about it.
No.
Because you've got to remember, where were you 10 years ago?
That's right.
You probably weren't eating like you are now, and you probably wouldn't have understood if someone said, "Don't bring that." You probably would have been like, "What?"
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people until something clicks in them.
That's right.
And we've all had that moment where it's clicked, and we
takes
can't
time to
really
get there.
judge the people it hasn't clicked for them yet.
And one thing that I always make sure I do, like we had our neighbourhood street party last night. We have a Christmas street party. We live in a little cul-de-sac, and so we have a street party at the end of the street, in the street, with tables in the street for Christmas.
Where do you live? Like Narnia? Like
I
you
know,
live
it's like the 50s. I love it. Anyway, and so, there was people that brought all this beautiful home baking. It was all stuff that we couldn't have. I brought my homemade chocolates because that's all I had time to make the other day. And but I made a point of saying to these ladies, wow, that cake looks gorgeous. I would love to have some. I wish I could. They know I'm on a special diet.
Yeah.
So, so that they at least know you've appreciated the effort they put into it. And you wouldn't say to them, oh my goodness, that must have so much sugar or whatever. Even if it's even if it's your sister.
Yeah.
It's just like, it can make a big difference.
Don't look at that food. Take away that view that it's
good or bad.
a thing of toxicity.
Yeah.
Like, just suspend that for that period of Christmas.
I think so.
You don't want to have those negativity, the negative feelings inside. Just accept it for this is what's happening. It's Christmas. You have to accept that there is a lot of tradition associated with that holiday, and it only comes once a year,
That's
which is
right.
great.
Yeah.
So.
We did get,
if it was every day.
We did get given a big chunk of Christmas cake with icing about a mile thick, and we got home, the kids are going, what are we going to do with this? And I said, well, we just give it to visitors when they come.
Yeah.
You slice it up, and that's what my mum always did. She'd slice it all up and freeze it, and then when visitors came, she'd get some out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. So you don't have to even worry about catering for those visitors.
That's right.
It's done for you.
Yeah.
And you won't crave it. Fantastic.
And desserts, we need to talk about that. So GAPS Paleo style desserts, because I think the main is pretty easy. The desserts is where it usually gets tricky. So although I can tweak most desserts, pavlova I have had no luck with. I'm sorry. Have you?
So the thing about pavlova is the meringue, and with meringue you need that kind of ultra refined sugar mostly to create that, just to make meringue.
Yeah. I do have a chef friend who said he used xylitol ground up, and then he dehydrated them.
I've tried that.
No?
Yes. No.
He said he had to keep them in the dehydrator until he served them.
Yeah, so they definitely,
fall otherwise, yeah.
Well, there's so many options out there.
Yeah, there's so many else. Yeah. I know, it's just that I keep getting that question, so I thought I'd ask you since you're a chef.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother.
No, I wouldn't either. I haven't had pavlova for years.
Yeah, and I understand a lot of people just don't want any sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how much meringue are you gonna have? Like, and if it's like
if it's covered in cream, then it sort of cuts the sugar a bit.
Well, it's just like for those people who can tolerate a little bit of sugar in their diet, then have the meringue if that's what you want. For those who can't, just don't bother with it, and just Jo, give us your ideas on lower sugar desserts.
So things like a trifle are really easy to tweak for every single diet known to man, practically. Like I've got one on my website which is a lemon berry trifle, and it has a lemon curd, lemon butter, one of the layers, and you can easily do that dairy-free. You can do it with very good, like you can use honey, you can use whatever sweetener you want.
Yeah.
And you can play with that a bit. Another layer is custard, which again you can do coconut milk custard or nut milk or whatever, and you can use whatever sweetener you want. You can do it with or without eggs. If you use cashews, you don't have to have eggs. If you're on GAPS, you can do a gelatin-based custard.
Yum.
So you have to use that instead of the cornstarch or corn flour, and you just once you've cooked it, you cool it in the fridge, and then you reblend it so it's smooth because it'll separate a bit.
Yeah.
And then you can do, a grain-free cake for the sponge. Instead of a really light sponge, it'll be a bit firmer, but it won't matter. So I do like an almond meal cake for that, or you could do coconut flour. And then the jelly, that's easy. Just whatever fruit you want, make a real jelly and sweeten it with whatever you want. You can use agar or you can use gelatin to set it. So,
Yeah, so for those who don't know, gelatin, like a jelly, is pretty much a liquid made of fruit juice. In the packets that you buy, is artificial flavors and sugar, basically, mixed with gelatin.
yeah.
But to make it at home, you just mix the like pure gelatin, which you can buy as a powder, and it's flavorless, and you can mix it in with any kind of fruit juice that you want. And if you want to add a bit more sweetness into it, you can just add some honey or maple syrup or whatever sweetener it is that you use. Even stevia works for that.
Yeah.
And it'll just set in the fridge. And agar that Joe's talking about is a plant-based gelatin as well. So
Yeah, so you can do the whole thing vegan, dairy free if you want to, or you could do more of a GAPS style or whatever. So there's heaps of ways that you can make trifle.
it's delicious as well.
Oh, it's so good. And every time I've made that for gatherings that are not people on special diets, it's been completely gobbled up and everyone's raved about it. And you just don't tell them that it's a special diet thing. If you want them to eat it, just don't tell them. They won't know.
No.
It just tastes amazing.
Yeah, and just give them some cream.
Yeah,
on the
give them some
side.
cream to put on
Yeah.
theirs. Pecan pie, like I said, I'll post that one on my Facebook page. Gingerbread, I did a grain-free gingerbread GAPS friendly the other day, so I'm going to post that on my blog hopefully tonight. I sort of half got it on there. Things like...
You can do the I do this chocolate cake with hazelnuts.
is it like
and
a
it's just
tort?
yeah, well, it's a cake.
Okay.
But you can make it in in Lebanon we have a French influence, so we make this thing called bûche de Noël, which means like the tree of Christmas or the
Okay.
wood of Christmas or something. And it pretty much the way you make it is you make it look like a tree trunk with branches coming out of it.
Oh, yes, I have seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy, and like you can just if you're using dark chocolate, the sweetness from the dark chocolate is sufficient if you don't want to add too much more sugar into it. And you're gonna accept maybe a little bit more of a sugar load, but as
Yeah.
long as you're avoiding things like the refined oils, like the veggie oils
Yeah.
and the ultra white sugar, then you just make it a little bit more of a judicious choice when it comes to the ingredient.
An exception for Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we wouldn't usually have so much, even the honey and the dates and the baking and all that kind of stuff, we wouldn't have quite as much as usual. But, like, my daughter said, Mum, could we just have a little bit of coconut sugar for Christmas, because she wanted to make the coconut sugar maple syrup toffee that I make that's got butter in it, and we tried it with honey and it just does not work. So I said, yeah, okay, we'll make that. We can give it away as presents and just keep a little bit for us.
Yeah.
So
Well,
since we're
yeah.
a year and a half through GAPS, I said okay, but it really depends on where you're at.
Where you're at. Yeah.
What else do you usually make for desserts? Paleo-ish.
Yeah, so Elaine and Sophie, they can't have dairy really, so that trifle is a go-to for us. So
Yeah.
we love doing that, and pretty much that's really what we stick with. Like there's our Elaine's parents, they have a neighbor who makes really great cakes, and
So
she
do
also.
we.
Yeah, she's like it's nice that you have people like that, and
Yeah.
when people really love making it, they're also up for a challenge to actually make
Yes.
like a version that is allergy friendly. So you can outsource the manufacturing of that cake to someone,
Good
and you
idea.
can just tell them, you tell them what you like and what you don't like in it, and they will, Jane's been really good with that. So
Raw
um,
cheesecakes.
yeah, oh, that's a good one.
That's
Yeah,
a really good one. That's
oh,
what,
wonderful.
and because you can make those ahead and freeze it, and you can do it now and have it 2 weeks later at Christmas or even a month later or whatever, and it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
for those of you guys who aren't on extremely restrictive diet, you'll be able to
a
look
normal
at
cheesecake. Yeah.
yeah, but like your cookbook, Joe, has a lot of really great recipes, and all of them are suitable for Christmas, I think.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah,
Well, one
um,
of them in there that I love, we had, was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. It's the spiced peach tart tatin.
oh,
And that one's a gluten-free pastry, but you can really easily change that to grain-free. Just use the grain-free pastry that's on my blog,
do you
which
have
is
any
almond milk.
Christmassy spices that go into it?
All sorts of, like, it's got the star anise and the
Oh,
cinnamon stick and all that whole, and
there you go.
ginger and everything, and you simmer the peaches in that and make it all syrupy, and then you've got the crust
Yeah,
that and then I just usually serve that with an instant cashew or macadamia ice cream, which is just the nuts, maple syrup or honey, vanilla, and ice, and you just whiz it up. So it's very, very quick.
The
So you can
nuts, maple syrup, ice, and
vanilla,
vanilla.
yeah, vanilla
And it
bean,
makes instant ice cream, does it?
instant. It's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in my
Wow.
cookbook. You should try it.
Yeah, I haven't gone through the cookbook yet. Like I'm still making my way through it.
That's all right. You're
Yeah.
busy with your own recipes.
Yeah.
That's what I find. I get people's cookbooks and say, that looks really nice, and then I keep making my own. So,
Well, it's sort of like if you're a stand-up, you don't go to other stand-up
well, that's
shows
it.
just so
That's
you don't steal their material by mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like,
But
I have this great idea for an orange almond cake, and you discovered someone already did it before you.
Yeah.
8,000 people.
yeah, you just don't look. Just
Yeah.
make up your own. Yeah. Can you think of anything else that you want to mention for Christmas dinner, dessert?
Oh yeah, you can just make some agua fresca, which is like nice fruit drinks. You can just put a little bit of fruit in water and put a lot of ice on top, and in an Australian summery Christmas, that's perfect. So
And it
you
sounds
get a
really good if you call it agua fresca instead
Yeah.
of just water with fruit.
yeah, that's
People will
right.
be like, oh, cool.
Yeah, you just it sounds sophisticated.
Our kids actually love that with frozen berries and coconut water.
Oh, wonderful. There you go. Yeah, and you can just put a lot of like things like mint and basil
Beautiful.
and like I even like coriander in it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's
That's a good idea.
yeah, any herb that you like, unless it's like oniony, like you don't want
Yeah,
chives.
obviously. No.
Yeah.
I'll try to
Those
remember that.
sweet herbs.
Oh, cool. All right, so should we move on to how... Well, we've kind of talked about how to cope with eating differently at family
Yeah.
gatherings. But yeah, I think a lot of times if you just don't tell... If there's someone that's really thingy about the way you eat, just don't tell them it's a special diet thing. Just make something that's really delicious and wow them with it, but don't tell them that it's made dairy-free, this and this and this,
Yeah.
Just don't tell them.
Yeah.
I've done
yeah.
that before with Croquembouche. Just made it
People
gluten-free
would
and
say,
dairy-free,
yeah.
and everyone loved it. So
That's what used to happen in my restaurant. People would say, "This
Yeah.
is the best bread I've ever had." And I'm like, "Are you gluten free?" And they go, "No, no." I'm like, "So this is like the best gluten free?" And they'll be like, "No, no, this is the best bread. Is it gluten free?" And I'll be like,
that's so awesome.
They
You,
just
you really
wouldn't-
need to get that recipe up on your blog, or is it too secret?
Well, Joe's going to
waiting for the
go
book.
in my book.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys, you have to buy the book.
yeah.
It's coming.
There's a
It's
book
coming.
coming. There's a book
We're
coming.
working on a book.
We haven't told anyone yet.
Exciting.
Yeah.
We have.
Oh well, just social on the social
Yeah, on
media
social media we've
pages.
mentioned it.
We haven't told the podcast people,
Shall we tell them?
but
Or shall we
yeah,
not?
I think we should. I think we have
Since we
already.
have.
All right, so next Christmas, you won't have to deal with these topics too much. We'll have you covered for
Awesome.
at least the paleo crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Joe and I are collaborating, and we're writing a book together. Joe,
Yeah.
do you want to tell them what the book's called?
Quirky Paleo.
Ta-da! So exciting!
It's going to be so
So-
much fun.
Yes. So we've
So-
got the team together. We've got the editor, the photographer, the designer, the publisher,
Yep.
and yeah.
Food
So
stylist.
well, not publisher, someone who's helping us get the book printed, basically.
Yes.
But and the food stylist. Oh,
It's going to
so
be,
good.
It's going to be very awesome. So stay tuned for that one.
But before that, next year, maybe hopefully this year, Joe's doing the GAPS program. So stay
Yes.
tuned for that one.
Yes, stay tuned for that one too, because that one's got 6 weeks of recipes. So
Yes, and do that as well as you can. So by the time Christmas comes, you can move on to
You'll
a
be ready
paleo
to-
diet.
that's
You can
right.
get.
That's right.
Awesome.
that's
All
the
right.
plan.
Yeah. So anyway, really exciting stuff for us, and
Yeah.
it feels like the present of the year for me to be collaborating with Joe on this
Aw.
book. So really exciting. I mean, I have to put up with her, but apart
He
from
does,
that, it's
poor guy.
awesome. Yeah.
Now, what about, we did mention a little bit about food that you can make ahead. Have you got any other ideas for food that could be made ahead and frozen, or
Well,
stored?
just one thing with things like potatoes, like you don't want to make them ahead and put them in the fridge. Like they're okay to be made ahead a couple of hours before and then reheated. But if you put potatoes in the fridge, then the starches will set differently and then they'll get super starchy.
They
So
go
the
kind of
veggies,
rubbery, don't they?
yeah, the type of starch actually changes, inside it as it heats and then cools down.
Okay.
So do the non-starchy vegetables, they reheat really, really well.
Okay.
So that's a really good one. I find the best roast that I would do for Christmas with there's two types. One is a lamb shoulder, and if you put a whole lamb shoulder in a slow cooker, you can cook it 2 days beforehand and keep that in the fridge. And
Oh,
then
wow.
when
How much
yeah,
water?
just zero water with it, zero
Zero
water.
water, two
Ju-
days.
Yeah, so you just
Oh,
put
wait a
the lamb.
minute. You mean you cook it and then put it in the fridge 2 days before?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I thought
yeah.
you meant cook it for 2 days. I was going to say, but it would be shriveled up.
No, no, 2 days before, you put it in the
Okay.
slow cooker, you just rub it with a little bit of salt, right?
Okay.
And
How long would
then
you cook it for then?
overnight in a slow
Okay.
cooker,
Yeah,
or
on low.
maybe 110 degrees in the oven or 100 degrees in the oven.
Okay.
And then put it before you go to bed, unless you go to bed like at 5 a.m. Put 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 it
This is
in the
getting
oven.
confusing.
Yeah. When I go to sleep, you put it in bed. So no, we put it in bed probably at around nine
Can you
o'clock.
please let us all know when you go to sleep so that we can put our lamb
Give me a
roast
call. I'll let you know.
in? 10
I,
o'clock.
I think that book that we're gonna write is gonna have really strange instructions in
I
it.
think so.
Uh,
It could be
Cook for as long
confusing.
for sleeps, and
Oh
uh,
dear.
so you all right. Let me say the recipe, and then
Okay.
so
I'll be
you
quiet.
guys have their pencils ready. Joe, please let me finish this. All right. So you put it in the oven, say 9 o'clock at night, and then take it out at say 7. So yeah, 10 hours. 10 hours is good, and at
Okay.
night it's better because you don't have to live with the heat of the
Yeah.
oven, and then you turn it off and then you put it in the fridge after it's cooled down. And you can do that a couple of days beforehand. Keep the skin on. And if you have a barbecue, the best thing you could do is you can just heat it on a medium heat barbecue with the skin down.
Okay.
And that will just until the skin starts to bubble up. And then you turn it the other way around and put it on the cooler side of the barbecue so that it can just warm through. And then you get lamb crackling on top, which is really,
Wow.
yeah.
Yum.
And that, a shoulder will feed, like, depending on the size, in a good sized slow cooker. That's your roast for Christmas. And it looks wonderful. You can glaze it with like a, cranberry jelly on top,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah. So there's so much you can do.
And
And
what would you do for vegetables if you were cooking the roast ahead?
yeah. So
Cold
I
roast
mean,
veggie salad or no, not cold?
no, okay. So one of my favorite salads ever is a broccoli salad, and I will roast. I'll get the broccoli and I'll chop them in nice big slices, and I'll just put a little bit of salt and olive oil on top, and then
Okay.
on the barbecue, I will put them on a medium heat barbecue, and just let them cook until they've softened. So you don't want to have that raw feeling, but you don't want to overcook them either.
Yeah.
I also have like a little smoke box. I just put some hickory wood or
Oh,
something like that.
nice.
Yeah, to smoke the broccoli. And what if I've got the other vegetables, like things like tomatoes go really, really well right next to the broccoli. So they will smoke and cook as well. And
Okay.
I'll take these out and let them cool down. I'll peel the tomatoes and cut them and put them with the juices and all into a bowl. Put the broccoli on top, some Spanish onion, a lot of different types of herbs in there. Like again, I'll do the mint, the parsley, the basil. I'll put if you eat things like chickpeas, that works really well. If you don't, then you don't have to. And a lot of leafy greens.
Probably
Uh,
do some toasted pine nuts or something if you don't have chickpeas, maybe.
Yeah, toasted pine nuts are great. Make sure that if they're the Chinese pine nuts that you do toast them because they give you a condition called pine mouth. If
Oh.
the some of them, I've had it where
Oh.
your mouth goes metallic for around 3 or 4 days. Everything you
Oh,
eat
how
tastes,
awful.
yeah, it's really really bad. So
Okay,
if
maybe
That's fine. Like cook
pepitas
them.
instead.
Just just cook them. Yeah, pepitas are great. Flaked almonds are great.
Yeah.
And you can just do a little bit of apple cider vinegar or white wine vinegar with mustard dressing. So you just put olive oil, mustard, salt. Like I use smoked salt as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Molten salt's like a
Yes.
salt and smoke. You can just put that in. Lemon juice, olive oil, and like a Dijon mustard in a jar, and you shake it, and then you dress the whole thing. And you can just put any vegetable that you like in there.
Okay, that sounds
But just
beautiful.
the smoke from the broccoli is phenomenal, and
Wow.
it just
I never would have thought of smoked broccoli.
it is so good. It's like really like my favorite salad. I just
Okay,
really
have to
really
try
love it.
that.
Yeah, and if you don't like broccoli, cauliflower is really good in it as well.
Okay. And you would
You don't
do
have.
that on the day or make it ahead and put it in the fridge?
Yeah, it'll be all right in the fridge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but don't dress it, of course.
Yeah.
You can like don't chop the herbs until like the last minute as well.
Okay.
But everything else can be chopped beforehand.
Okay.
And yeah, you just mix it all up with the dressing, and it's just absolutely wonderful.
Sounds
And
beautiful.
what else? What was I gonna say?
Is
Yeah.
that the one that you told me about that you put pomegranate in sometimes? Is that a different
No,
one?
no, it's a different one. Like,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, that would go all right. I reckon pomegranates would go better with the cauliflower
Okay.
than they would with the broccoli. And by
Yeah.
the way, you can just do this in the oven. Like you don't have to do it you don't have to
Yeah, I was
smoke it.
wondering that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still really good. So like one huge salad, and then some roasted vegetables, which you can just do pumpkin. You can do carrots, sweet potatoes for sure. If you're paleo, you'll be wanting to do that. Um,
We always add Brussels sprouts, beetroot,
Roast- Yeah,
red onion. I love all that roasted.
yeah. The beetroot I roast in alfoil, or like
Okay.
I just find that if for some reason, like it just doesn't keep water very well. I find
Okay.
like
Yeah, I usually sometimes what I do is do a really big tray of roast veggies and I'll just put like a centimetre of water in the bottom
ah
and then the heap of olive oil over the top and the juices at the end.
yeah,
There's
wow,
not a whole lot left, but
yeah,
you just can
yeah.
just kind of toss it through and it's really
Wonderful
yummy.
self-dressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
And
Yeah,
then
so
if you keep them in the fridge and have it cold, then I just add a heap of like baby spinach and do a vinaigrette dressing and add some toasted seeds or nuts or
yeah,
whatever.
and you can even put some spices on top. Like you
Yeah.
can just have a dukkha.
I was just
Um,
thinking that, yeah.
yeah,
I've got a
that would
really nice macadamia one.
wonderful. See that would work really well.
Mm.
Za'atar is really good, which is like
Yeah.
a mixture of sumac and thyme.
Hmm.
And you could just put like I'm going with the Middle Eastern stuff because that's what I love
No,
personally. But,
it's
yeah,
delicious. I've had that.
yeah, Ras Al Hanout, which is a
Hmm.
Moroccan spice mix as
Yep.
well. That goes like wonderful. And also, what you can do is you can just crush a little bit of garlic with olive oil,
Hmm.
and you can just dress the veggies before you put them in the oven.
Yep.
So that just gives it that extra bit of flavor in there.
Yeah, good idea.
Onions roast really, really well, either
Yeah.
on the barbecue or in the
When you
oven.
roast your onions, do you leave them in the skin or do you just peel that off and then you've got that crunchy bit of skin on the outside? Doesn't matter once it's roasted.
Um, yeah, so yeah, I'd cut it in quarters
Hmm.
and then put a bit of olive oil and salt on the outside and roast it, and then I would just get the skin will just basically you can just take it out
Yeah.
easily after it's cooked.
Yep.
You don't have to worry too much about it. Even like garlic, if you want to roast whole
Same,
garlic,
yeah.
you
I
slice it
love
in
that.
half and yeah, rub it with salt and olive oil and just yeah, it's delicious.
It
So
is.
so
I mean,
yeah.
and when you're serving up stuff like that, no one's going to think that's a weird thing. They're going to just go, this is amazing. This is so delicious. And
Yeah,
it's so simple.
it's real food and
It's
it
real
has a
food.
lot of flavor.
Mm.
So like what are people going to complain about?
No,
Like
there's
what
nothing to
yeah.
complain about. They'll just be raving about it and saying, give me the recipe.
Well, I think yeah, we've done this and Elaine's grandmother who turned like 101 or
Oh,
something this year.
wow.
Like we did it last year and she loved it. And
Oh,
she's
that's good.
each year it was a traditional English Christmas.
Yeah.
And the year we did it, I did like a roast salmon.
Yeah.
and it was a whole side of salmon, and you just wrap that in baking paper and just rubbed with olive oil and salt, and you just bake it for maybe like 25 minutes,
Just in the
and
oven.
just in the oven. It's almost like you're heating raw salmon through,
Yeah.
good quality stuff, and just
Yeah.
it's flaky and it falls apart. And then I
Yum.
make tahini sauce that goes on top of that, and I put this dish is called samkaharra. So you put coriander with sumac, onion, finely diced. You put mint, I put parsley, and you toast some walnuts or any nut that you like, and you chop that up really fine. And you make like a little salsa,
Oh,
and when
yum.
the salmon comes out, you just put the tahini sauce on top. And tahini is basically the sauce itself is made with tahini, which is pressed sesame. It's like a peanut butter made of sesame seeds,
Yeah.
lemon juice, olive oil, and salt. And you
Okay.
make that sauce, and that goes on top of the fish, and then you put the herbs and the nuts on top, and it looks like the fish is sort of studded with all these different
Yeah.
nuts.
That would be
And
delicious.
oh, it's so fresh. It's really much better suited for our climate than
Yeah.
like
A big roast turkey
yeah,
dinner,
a big roast turkey. Yeah.
which is what we
Uh,
often have. But
yeah.
anyway,
Mm.
oh, that
All
sounds
right.
amazing. So, other things too, just I often make a big heap of homemade chocolates, gingerbread, things like that, and I just put it all in the freezer so that when people do drop by, you've got something to pull out of the freezer,
Mm.
and just make sure your kids don't know it's all there, or
You kids
yourself.
seem to be all right.
I found half the plate of chocolate missing after a day with my son finding it. But anyway,
What he ate? He ate the
oh, he just
chocolate.
keeps coming back and eating bits of it, and it's
Mm.
like, that was actually for a party. Don't eat anymore. So
That's
yeah, kind of have to
yeah.
hide it. But it's really good having stuff there ready to go because I find at this time of year I get a lot of people dropping in. I don't know about everyone else, but it's kind of what they do around here. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, our house is pretty quiet. Like, we don't get too many visitors, but
Yeah.
yeah, we never bother. We don't feel like we have to actually cater for the season somehow.
Yeah, well, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
well, that's good. Well,
we've
we
got the
have a lot
Christmas
of
tree up. And, yeah.
cousins here at the moment, so
Mm.
yeah, it's
Yeah, I
good.
mean it's
It's
nice.
lovely.
Like I guess when the kids grow up a little bit more, it'd be more fun for them as well, and then we
Yeah.
do more.
Yeah, you'll find
Um,
when you've got teenagers, you'll have constant drop-ins. Well, that's what we find. There's just kids here all the time.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's good to have a few bits and pieces on hand.
yeah, for sure. But don't get caught in that trap of
You have to feed everybody. No.
yeah,
Well, we
just
went and bought 10 kilos of light cheese. I'm sorry, I'm going to make you jealous again. For $5 a kilo, and just plomped that on the counter. And then every time the teenagers went running through the house, they just grabbed handfuls.
oh my God,
And there's mangoes and,
yeah,
the fresh fruit up here. I mean, you don't really need to do much baking at this time of year because there's so much amazing fruit.
heaven. It's such good fruit.
Yeah.
Ah,
So we just buy it
straight.
in bulk and then that's what the kids eat.
Yeah, my
Just
local
treats.
supermarket had it for like $12 a kilo just 2 days ago. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's not too bad for Sydney, is it?
Yeah, I don't know, Joe. I think you should start a business flying down lychees. So.
I did think about it. Especially when someone told me $25 a kilo.
Yeah, well, it actually that's when it peaks.
Okay. Yeah, shocking. Oh well, you guys, well, at least down south they get the really lovely fresh berries that we don't get, so we're even.
Ah,
We're even.
yeah, well, a pound of blueberries for $7. Like, that's not really,
No, that's not
you
fair.
know, yeah, you don't want that. But, yeah. All right. So where are we now? What
Well,
next?
shall we talk about another question that I had was how do you deal with reactions after eating something you shouldn't have at Christmas?
It's like
So,
shock reaction. Oh my God, how could I eat that? Is that the kind of reaction
yeah,
that you're
well, I
talking
know.
about? Yeah.
No, not that.
Okay. Okay.
I know for myself, before we were really strict with GAPS, every year I'd have things like cheesecake or ice cream just because it's Christmas, I want to have it, and I don't usually have
Yes.
dairy, and then I'd always wake up the next morning with a terrible cold or something because it just always reacted with, a big histamine reaction, and I kind of just dealt with it because I wanted it so bad at Christmas, if you know what I mean. We
Hmm.
always had, Mum always made homemade ice cream with the old-fashioned churn, usually fresh peaches. And so, I mean, how do you say no to that? So, so I said to Mum, we have to make a coconut cream peach ice cream this year. So, but I think
have you practiced the recipe for that? Or?
no, I do everything at the last minute.
Of course. Don't I know that?
Yep, you do.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
By the way, guys, I got like the message about the podcast today at around 4 o'clock.
Shh, don't tell them that. They'll think I'm really unorganized.
Well, they should. They should know the reality that, that kind of life that,
The
people think,
slapdash.
yeah,
She'll
they
be
think
right,
that,
mate.
you've
Farm
got it
of
all under control.
Queensland.
Joe is chaotic, guys.
I'm
I'm
very
telling you.
chaotic, I'm afraid.
Yeah, in the best way possible. Amazing output.
It's how I keep things interesting.
Yes.
Okay, reactions.
It's
So,
going.
add to this, Fouad, if you know more, but I know when I've had reactions to food, bicarb soda in water helps.
Wow.
Drinking that. Also, activated charcoal tablets. If you've got enzyme tablets, they're good too to take because that'll help you to digest the food.
Yes.
Especially if you know you're going to eat something that you shouldn't, start taking them before you eat. Drinking heaps of water. Epsom salt baths, that really helps, and also foot baths, Epsom salt foot baths.
Nice.
Getting out in the sunshine, exercising, running around, sweating, all that kind of thing helps to get the toxins out. Drinking lots of broth. So that's, something you might want to just keep up during the holidays if you can. A cup of broth 3 times a day if possible. And if I've had a bad reaction to food, I'll sort of pull back my diet quite tightly for a couple of days and even before GAPS I did this. I'd have no grains, no starches, no sugars, no dairy for a couple of days, and then the reaction would go very quickly.
Yeah.
Basically, you just want to make sure that the food you're eating is really easy to digest, so you're not making it hard for your body. And you might find you want to sleep more. That's quite common. With histamine reactions especially, I find I'm really sleepy. And you just have to rest.
Well, also you've eaten too many carbs and
sugar overload.
Sugar. So you will get sleepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think probiotics.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot about that. Should have said that first, hey?
Well, you wouldn't have given me something to say.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. And I would have a big healthy breakfast on the day of the binge. And I would skip breakfast the day after.
Okay.
First, just to give your
body a chance to...
Yeah, just a chance.
Yeah.
And try to make the sugar binge happen for the lunch rather than for the dinner.
Yeah.
And for dinner, try to take it a bit easier.
And I think most of us do at dinner because you sort of had such a big lunch. You're like, just salad
just don't
and
have
fruit
seconds
for dinner.
for dessert. Like people, like my
true.
family will have dessert again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but focus more on the meats and the vegetables, the less starchy food, and sugar should be the smallest quantity in your meal. So
and the good thing
have a bit of everything if you can, if you must, but just the portions that does matter. Like
it does.
give yourself permission to eat cake. Don't eat like 5 slices of cake.
Yeah. I find that it's quite good when you've got a fair bit of family and friends because you can try little bits of things, but it's not all left over at the end for you to keep binging on for days. And if you do end up with heaps of leftovers and they're things that you shouldn't really have, maybe send them home with people.
Yeah.
So that you're not
don't keep it around.
tempted to keep it, Except for things like leftover roast turkey and veggies, because there's so many yummy things you can make with that. Keep that.
Yes. Well, that's good for you.
Yeah.
Coconut oil on an empty stomach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really good. That's good for your gut, and also just lowers your appetite for the day. So
That's true.
you don't want to eat too much more the next day.
Yeah.
And also helps you control your blood sugar fluctuations the next day, which is a big deal. And but I echo your sentiments about sleep, exercise, and sunshine.
Ocean swims if you can.
Yeah, barefooting. being out in nature.
Yep.
Um, I think one of the big things for me is like take some time and examine what Christmas is to you.
Yeah.
Don't go with the commercial view of
Yes.
what Christmas is supposed to be.
Totally
Just
agree.
just make it about what is important for you and your family.
Yep.
Don't be a postcard family. Just do what you want
Yeah.
to do for Christmas, and organize your activities around that, and have fun, enjoy it, love it. Just be more with the people than you are with the food.
Yeah, and I think that brings us to our next point about lowering the stress of the day, because a few people have said, we did mention it a little bit, but that they find it's very overwhelming, Christmas time. And I think one lady actually, we took some comments on the Facebook pages and copied them down when we were talking about this subject. And one lady, Wendy, said their family decided not to do gifts at Christmas some years ago, and they just have a lovely day of eating and laughing and being together, and they don't have that financial pressure of I've got to get a gift for her and I've got to get. And in our family, we're pretty much like that. With our own kids, we'll do gifts, but we don't buy gifts for every cousin and every uncle and auntie. It's just too much, and you don't need it.
Yes. Well, we once did a budget, and we said with that budget, you each go and buy your own present and wrap it. You put it under the Christmas tree,
Yeah, my kids
and then
pretty
everyone
much.
goes, "Yay!" They're like, "That's fun."
Last
And
year, Isaac was so funny. He ordered. He had his Christmas money organised already. Like, how much am I allowed to have? And he
yeah,
ordered Rubik's cubes to cover all the money. And when they came, he wrapped them all himself and put them on the
yeah,
piano. He's very happy.
that's great. Yeah, see, like you get exactly what you want,
Exactly.
and you're happy.
But I mean, yeah, I think when you find something that you really, really want for for someone, I don't know about you, but I generally will just buy it, and it doesn't matter what time of year it is. And then you get to Christmas and it's like, well, I can't think of anything because I already bought them something really special. So it
Yeah,
doesn't have to be at a certain time of year.
yeah. Like, honestly, I'm not expecting anything this Christmas for myself. I'm Elaine and we're not buying each other anything.
Yeah, we don't
Um,
usually worry too much.
Yeah, and like we're just happy to like I got just a couple of things for my daughters. Like I got them
Yeah.
a magnifying lens and a slinky and like
Oh.
just really and
Well,
a
that's the
couple of
thing. If you
magnets.
start off really simple, your kids
Yeah,
never have crazy expectations for Christmas. So, start
no,
that way.
yeah, they really like they live in their own world where a piece like a stick is
Yeah.
awesome. Like why are we putting our own desensitized sense of what is cool and nice to have on children where everything in their life is awesome, you know?
Yes. Have you ever
The-
seen those videos on YouTube where they wrap up random things and give them to kids for Christmas? Like
No.
like an avocado or
Oh, really?
and then they video their reactions, and it really
Is it?
shows you
Yeah.
it kind of shows you how kids have been raised. And like you'll get kids who'll open the avocado and go, "Wow, an avocado.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mum." And they're
Yeah.
kind of puzzled, but they're not going to be
Yeah.
rude about it. And
Yeah,
then there'll
yeah.
be ones that'll just throw the biggest tantrum.
Yeah, well.
It's quite an interesting thing. I'm not saying, you have to go and do that, but it's just quite funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we're the one
avocados
that
are
puts the expectations on our kids, really.
yeah, like just you don't need to go like I don't know. You do what you want to
Yeah,
do.
of course.
I think with kids it's you just work with where they're at, not where you're at,
And some
and
people, that's how they show love, is by giving gifts, and I totally understand that. But there's so many gifts that you can give that are not, like expensive plastic junk or whatever.
yeah.
There's so many more meaningful gifts that you can give if you really are a gift giver and you really want to do it. So that's, I'm not going to go into all of those because there's heaps of
No.
ideas, but
Yeah, I mean, there's just like my idea behind what we give them is things that just make them interested in the world,
yeah,
So I just get
yep,
them just little things that, like the magnifying lens. I remember as a kid, like I spent days,
yeah,
so much time.
frying ants.
Yeah, just like yeah.
I know.
Yeah, well, I was more. I used to burn paper. I just put
Yeah,
like just
didn't we
pencil
all?
on the paper and then burn that. But like just even looking at things on the magnifying lens,
Yeah,
or things like the magnets, and just like I mean, it is pure magic that you
it
can
is.
use a magnet to attract something like. And
Yeah,
I don't think like a plastic doll can compete.
no.
really in the wonder, but it'll definitely outshine it in style. So it's all about substance for us. So that's what we
Yeah.
try to do. But
Yeah.
it's your family is your family. You do what you want.
And I think, like another lady said, I'm not sure who wrote this. I'm sorry, I must have lost the name, but her tips were to be organised early, yes, make
Hmm.
lists, and she said stick to budgets. And I think that's important too because it's so easy to keep going, oh, I'll get that too, and I'll get that too, and I'll
Hmm.
get that too, and then suddenly you've spent $200 and something on each child. Or maybe that's not big to some people, I don't know, but it's easy to go over the budget.
Yeah,
Just remember that it is about the family times, and this for me, it's really the time with the family, as in the extended family and friends, and just all cooking together and laughing and telling stories and sitting around the table. That's the fun bit.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and this lady also mentioned to write a grateful list for the year you had, and I thought that was interesting because we were talking about this, weren't we?
Yeah. Like I think that's last week we were talking about it, weren't
Yeah.
we? Yeah, we just mentioned that this is something that we should be doing. Remind me of the context though, like
So, like, instead of, I guess, at Christmas time, it's really easy to get caught up in all the, oh, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. But instead, change your focus and say, I'm going to think about all the amazing things that happened in this last year, and I'm going to actually write them down. Because when you write it down, it's so much more powerful than just, oh, yeah, this happened and that happened. I'll just tell you a little story. When we were kids, my dad started this thing where I can't remember what we called it. It might have been the blessings list or something like that. And he had a piece of paper up on the fridge and had something on one side, but so that if people came into the house, they didn't know what was on it. But on the back was our secret list. And whenever we had something amazing given to us or some really exciting thing or blessing or something, we'd write it on the back of the list and stick it on the fridge. And it was such a fun thing. Like someone would give you a fish that they caught, we'd write it on the list, or someone would give you a pumpkin, or, the beans grew on the vine, so we'd write that on the list or whatever. And we'd come home from school, and I can't quite remember this, but Dad said we would come home from school and we'd run in the door, and before we even said anything, we'd run to the list on the fridge and pull it off and have a look if there was anything new for the day. And it was,
wow, yeah.
even as kids, that was something,
So it
because
put
it was,
being grateful as a top
yeah,
priority for
and I
you.
think it was just very tangible. It was
Yeah,
exciting to have it
yeah,
written down and to actually see it, because then you
yeah,
start to realize how much, that you can easily pass by without noticing
yeah,
if you don't write it down. And I think that's why it's important to do it, because we do take things for granted unless we purposely try to remember.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
where gratitude journals come from, I guess, and that idea. A lot of people keep those.
Yeah, we can kind of hang on to the negative parts of our day more than the positive ones, and we let the positive ones go unacknowledged.
And I
So,
know some people around the Christmas table with their family will go around and each say something that they're grateful for about other people in the family or about, whatever. And I've heard a few stories like that, and I thought, that's a lovely tradition for Christmas as well.
yeah, you got to be in the right kind of family to do it. The
Yeah,
non-cynical one.
yeah,
Otherwise,
that's
you
true.
just go, ah,
You'll always get one or two cynical ones,
yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
So with that kind of awareness, Tracy, one of your followers on Facebook, left a really good set of tips, and also she wrote what she was grateful about. I want to read what she's grateful about when we get to the gratefulness section, but
Okay.
I'll read a little bit about the tips that she's given. Every night before you fall asleep, think of 3 things you're grateful for. This helps me reevaluate some of the things I've stressed about during the day and makes me realize they really weren't that important.
Yeah.
Exercise, even if it's just going for a walk around the block, it's good to get fresh air. If everything gets too much, go and take a break for a few minutes, then get to whatever you were doing. Your sanity is more important than cooking, cleaning, etc.
I so agree.
And finally, she said, finally take a deep breath, relax, and have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
That's really
Good
lovely.
tips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my tips would be have a good breakfast, have less variety, but put more love, attention, and awareness into the dishes. if you're lucky enough to be with family and friends, engage them in the cooking process and the cleanup,
Yes.
which is a
Definitely.
big deal. Yeah, the
It can be
aftermath.
fun. The cleanup time's fun if you've got a bunch of people in the kitchen all chatting, and
Yeah,
it's much nicer than having
it's
to do it when everyone goes home.
definitely like you know if you're doing it while you're engaged with something else on a mental level, then you won't feel it.
Yes.
Um, yeah. My fourth thing is focus on the people more than you do on the food.
Hmm.
Try to enjoy their company. This is really like it's like all these people who go to great lengths to organize their weddings, and they start sweating all the details, and then
Yeah.
it's a couple of months later they've forgotten all but the bad stuff. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be that.
No.
And also, if who cares if you've burnt it? Christmas will be more memorable because of that. So
True.
yeah,
Yeah. Cover it in gravy, or if it's a cake, cover it in chocolate. Everyone will eat
yeah.
it.
Chocolate. Don't put chocolate on your turkey though.
No, that's probably not a good.
Yeah,
Well, then again,
chocolate.
we could always have turkey
Uh,
mole. Mm.
Oh, really? Oh,
Well, we have chicken
oh,
mole.
yes, true. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, we won't go there.
Roast turkey. No.
It's turkey mole.
Okay.
Okay, well, okay, so we're just going to read out a few of the comments from Facebook on what people said that they're grateful for from the past year, and we'll just end off with that.
Oh, hold on. Aren't you going to tell me
Oh,
what you're grateful about?
oh, sorry.
Do you want to do that
Am
after
I
the
am I talking
Facebook
about what I'm
comments?
grateful about, or my tips?
Okay, hold on. Do you have tips that you've gone through yet?
I
No.
think I pretty much have.
Okay, so if you've covered
Yeah,
them, that's fine.
I pretty
Let's
much
do the
covered.
Facebook comments,
Yeah.
and then we move on about gratefulness,
Okay.
and then we move on to our own, what we are grateful about,
Yeah. Okay.
grateful for.
Good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
So let's see. We had one from Emma, and she said, "I'm grateful for happy, healthy, hungry, and clever children." I loved that because I often whinge about my son who's always hungry, but that's actually a good thing.
Sure.
And living in a beautiful country, and a lot of people mentioned that especially with all the things that have gone on in the past year, we're very blessed to live where we live. Jenny said, I'm grateful for social media. Having chosen to live on the other side of the world to all my family and friends for a few years, it's allowed me to keep in touch, and it feels like I'm still a part of everything our kids and grandkids and friends do. It's also given me opportunities I didn't know were possible in all the healthy and healing foods that were available to us. It's also given me new friends who I've grown to love and admire. Secondly, I'm grateful for the ability to travel, to go back and see the family often, and to see other parts of the world which I didn't realise was so big. Thirdly, I'm grateful for life, very grateful. I thought that was good because there's a lot of people that don't have family close by for Christmas.
Yeah.
And she has such a good attitude with, well, I'm grateful that I can keep in touch on social media because
Yeah.
sometimes
Social
that
media
is,
is also like it's been mentioned a couple of times as well in the
yeah.
comments, and I feel like as much as we think technology alienates us, I mean, really, Joe, you and I met over social
We
media.
did.
And all the people listening to us now, it's done through that
Mm.
medium. So it's just, I'm definitely grateful for it.
Yeah, me too. And it can be used for good.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a knife. You
Yes.
can chop up the cabbage, or you can use it to
Mm.
hurt other people. So,
Yeah.
it's in the hand of the person who wields it. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, all right. So Kathy, she said, I'm very grateful for our health challenges as they have taken us on an amazing journey of learning and meeting wonderful new friends. We are so much healthier, even though we have diseases, between quotes, than we were before the diseases. And I'm grateful for my family who support my weird health choices, even when they don't understand them. There's so much in that,
There is.
really.
Yeah.
Um,
I know
completely.
Kathy personally, and she's
Yeah.
been through a
Yeah.
big journey with her little
Uh,
girls with
yeah.
GAPS. I actually interviewed her a
Oh,
few months
really?
ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
I'm glad you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I share that with you. I would never trade not having had a gluten intolerance in my life to being able to eat it, because it really woke me up in this life. And also having a wife who, when I said to her, I'm going to be eating bacon and eggs fried in butter for the next few months, trying to lose weight, she was crazy enough to say, well, it sounds like a crazy idea, but if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it with you. So
I love it.
yeah, so I'm right there with you, Kathy.
Yeah, so good. And just the way that our children, I know Kathy says this quite often on her Facebook page, that the way our children have been our teachers, because of them we've changed our diet. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's like the things that I've seen go through your family. Mine was the other way around. I started my journey before the children came,
Yeah.
but seeing what you've had to go through
Mm.
and the attitude that you've taken, amazing. And I think also, as much as you've been giving out, Joe, to the community around you, you've been getting back from them
Oh,
as well.
definitely. I've learnt so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Christina said she's very thankful for the Mind Forum, where she found a practitioner to support a healing journey instead of a medication plan, which is awesome. No meltdowns for her little girl, no anxiety for her anymore. They both have pyroluria. Life has changed. Grateful for the internet, so access to research and podcasts for healing and support, and grateful for the patience to complete her studies finally. So that's
Fantastic.
great. Yeah.
Congratulations, Christina.
Yeah.
Finishing your studies.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
It's great. Huge. Yeah. Tracy says, I'm grateful for my parents. They've done so much for me and my family in more ways than they will ever know. I think they do, Tracy. Parents are always agonizing over every action that they take with their children.
Yes.
I've found out. So
Yes.
give me a new appreciation for mine. I wouldn't be where I am today without them. And Tracy says something that resonates with me because it's been a big part for me in my year as well. But she says, I'm also grateful for discovering mindful meditation. It's helped me get through a tough year with lots of changes going on in my life. And finally, I'm also grateful for finding such an amazing partner who I can share my life with. So yeah, they think about the meditation. I can talk about that a little bit later, but I find actually I'll talk about it quickly now. But taking the time each day where you can just do an assessment of your emotional state, and you go, what exactly am I feeling today? And then allowing yourself to build a practice that allows you to let go of thinking patterns that seem to affect your emotional state without them being conducive to it. Fostering that kind of ability has really changed me. It's quietened me down. It's made me more present. But it's really been made possible through mindfulness and just giving myself that 20 minutes a day where I can just self-examine. And I think that's a skill that's allowed me to go through traffic better, to work at my job better. So yeah.
I think it is important that, even I've found even if you only have 5 minutes of time where you can just, block everything out and be alone and think and just take that time to stop being busy. I think we just get so caught up in busy, and I often have to make it little bits of time. Like I might not get 20 minutes all in one batch to just sit alone, but I might get 5 minutes here and then later 5 minutes there, and I find even that helps. So if you're a mum with a bunch of little kids, or even one baby is enough to make it difficult sometimes. Take those moments when you can.
Yeah, just a bit of quiet. Just a little bit of quiet helps. All right, Joe, what are you grateful for? Hold on, you're the podcast person. We should finish on you. Let me tell you what I'm grateful for.
Okay.
So I'm definitely grateful for all things such as friends and family, and I'm also grateful for three of my friends, Priscilla, Helena, and Bedwi, who have gone through all young really, really young people who've gone through cancer and they are in remission. So I'm thankful for that, for seeing them go through that journey and heal. Um, I'm grateful for finally being able to integrate the cliche, which says happiness can only be found in the now. Um, so I've been able to get to a point in my life where more often than not, I'm not really yearning for a future, or just all I want is like I'm finding contentment and happiness just in the moment, present moment. I'm also grateful for the pain in my body that I get. I get back pain and hip pain, and I'm grateful for that because it reminds me that always that my lifestyle requires attention. So it's just a constant reminder for me that I need to move more and be, move more towards a life that is, active and less sedentary. I'm grateful for wise people who share their wisdom and for loving people who share their love. Sounds a bit sappy today, but that's how I'm feeling, Joe, so bear with me. I'm grateful for being able to realize some dreams that I've had and to being able to freely let go of other dreams. I'm grateful for the experience of happiness itself. I just wouldn't imagine how life would be if happiness wasn't an emotion that we could feel. Um, I'm grateful for ethical, conscious people who are changing the definition of success in this world. Recently, Joe, I heard people say that we should change what we call a millionaire, and instead of being a person who makes $1 million, it's a person who affects the lives of 1 million people positively.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
So these are the kinds of people that I'm seeing surface everywhere in this world, and I'm really happy to see that. I'm happy to see people
awesome.
moving down that path. I'm grateful for rediscovering the joy of learning. I'm grateful for the gifts that I've been given in my life and for having found ways to put them to good use. I'm grateful for the increased feeling of connection and loving awareness that I have with the world around me. And I'm grateful for being here now talking to you, Joe.
Oh, thank you. Well, your list is amazing. I didn't even write a list. I'll just have
Oh,
to make it up off the top of my head.
well, that's all I prepared. You prepared everything else other than that.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is being thankful for my family, especially being raised in the family I was raised in, and my parents have made such a big impact on me, and I'm thankful for them every day and thankful to live close to them. That's a really lovely thing because I know a lot of people don't get to live close to their family and their parents. My kids, amazing. I learn from them all the time and just have so much love from them and for them. And for my husband who keeps me grounded. And I think you can get so, I don't know, it's easy to get your mind unfocused from family and what's important and start getting into other things. And I felt myself drifting a little bit this year, and I had to bring myself back and say, no, the most important thing is my family. I've got to say no to a lot more things so that I can be here for my family. And once I did that, I had such a peace that that was the thing I was meant to do. And I still get to travel a bit, and I still get to, go and speak at places and do classes, but I'm just much more conscious that, my place is here with my family. And I don't feel, I feel, like you say, being content in the moment and happy with where you are and not having to always go, well, when the kids grow up, I'll be so happy because I'll be able to do this and I'll be able to do... No, I'm happy now. And so I'm thankful for that.
Such a different place, like
Yeah.
like the book that you and I are working on now. I'm honestly not really in any way looking forward to it coming out more.
Because the
And
process is
I'm
enjoyable.
loving doing it. I'm
Yeah.
just loving it. Just every little step that we take is a reward in itself. And I'm sure I'm gonna be really, really excited when it comes, but I'm in no rush for it. And
Yeah, and I think that's how I feel too. And
yeah,
when you don't have that stress of it's got to be rushed, you can enjoy the process.
yeah, it's we're caught in a trap that a set of habits that we've been set we've had set upon us from our childhood, like when you grow up, you're gonna be, when you go to school,
Yes.
when you do this, when you do this, and we're always living for the when and not the now, and it's such a hard habit to break. Like how first of all, it takes the realization that the when actually never comes,
Yes.
and that all you have is the now,
Yeah.
and then that's the trick. Well,
Yeah.
you can't be happy then. You can be happy now.
And just learning to let go of all those expectations. I've been working on that a lot this year and learning to simplify and just say, okay, well, whatever I have, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to just make the most of that and get the most out of that I can and love it. And that's been, it's very freeing. So yeah, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for my doggy.
And for your bird coming
And
back.
for my bird coming back, that was amazing. And all you guys on Facebook talking about it because the lady saw it on Facebook and found it in a tree.
Unbelievable.
He's so cute. But yeah, I know that's a very girly thing to say, pets, but I just love my pets and they just follow me everywhere. And life
It
would
looks
not be the same
delicious, that
without
bird.
pets.
I would.
Hey, you're not having my bird for Christmas.
Christmas roast. Oh, it looks a bit too scrawny. No,
I
I was really happy when it came back, Joe. I'm grateful
Yeah.
for that with you, standing right there with you.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, so I'm very thankful for the place where we live and our little country town and community. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh my goodness, do you like live in the 50s or something?" Because you've got like street parties and you've got people that bring you cakes when you move into your house, and you've got a church community, and it's just very old-fashioned in some ways, but I absolutely love it, and it's the best place to raise kids, I tell you. We really love living here.
Yeah, it's
So
look, Joe. I think you are, that place to me, and every whenever I hear anything about it, it's just this summary of just goodness. Like it seems to be like full of really good people who are nice to each other,
we have a lot of
and
lovely friends and neighbours.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think you've taken that and you've that life that you have, and just that I think people don't might not realize, but you are that environment online. That's what you bring to people here.
I hope so.
You are the one having the street party on Facebook.
Yeah, I want to have a
Right.
street party. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
And I
So
just want it to be this community where people support each other, and when someone's sick,
it
they take them
is.
food in hospital, and
It seems to,
so
yeah. So
that's what I'm trying to do online, definitely, because
yeah, and
not everybody lives in a place like this.
and Joe, like the amount of people that love you on your page, like it's so apparent,
Oh,
and
don't make me cry.
no, like so I think you should say you are grateful for them. Go for
I'm very grateful for you guys. I love you. Now we are getting soppy today. I think we
There
better
you
stop
go.
soon.
Well, it's the last one for the year.
It's the last one for the year, yeah. But
We're not gonna sing a
I
hymn.
honestly do appreciate each and every one of you, and I always talk about this at my classes and seminars that there is, I never, never, never expected to be where I am now, and the only reason I am is because of all these amazing people who have built this community with me, and it's not just me. And if it wasn't for you guys, there would be nothing. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm very
all right.
grateful.
Yeah.
And I
Um,
hope that you all have an amazing Christmas and really
eat
get to
well.
spend, yes, eat well, but especially have lots of love surrounding you with friends and family. And I know that some of you probably have been going through hard times and don't have friends and family close by. And I would just say to you, reach out to someone else who's in the same boat, because that is such a blessing to be able to help someone else who needs that. And I've seen that happen in our own family when at Christmas time or at other times, bringing in people who don't have anyone, it's a blessing to both. It's amazing. So that's my little tip for the Christmas time.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right, Joe. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Now, I'll just finish off with saying that the next podcast will be 2 weeks from now, so January the 1st. So New Year's, and hopefully I'll get it up for January the 1st. No, I'm sure I will. And we hope that you've enjoyed the podcast this past year. Fouad will be my co-host for the new year, and we've got lots of great things that we want to share with you. And we're working on the book, like we said. So we'll talk about, in the next podcast, we'll talk about some of the things that are coming up for the new year. And it's going to be very exciting. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. Have a great Christmas. Bye.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.